Good evening and welcome to Revolutionizing Widowhood. My name is Kienholz and I'm the Program Director for Modern Widows Club. Let me be the first to welcome you to tonight and thank you so much for joining us. Our format this evening will be a presentation of our 10-year impact report by MWC founder, Carolyn Moor. After she shares all of the exciting news about MWC's past, present, and future, we'll have a Q&A session with Carolyn. She will also provide you with a variety of ways to be a widow champion and support our efforts to serve and empower widows. This will be a 30-minute event, so we will move quickly. And let me welcome Carolyn Moor.
Thanks, Lynn. I appreciate it. Well, welcome everyone. We are so excited that so many of you have joined us for this 10-year celebration. I appreciate you and our MWC for taking this time. And I'm so thrilled that hundreds of you are together expressing interest in caring about widows, because that's our favorite topic. So just sit back and enjoy. Look at the slides. If you have any questions, post them in the chat and have fun. So tonight we're inviting you to be a part of the next movement of great global social significance and one of the last great social issues to be addressed, which is supporting widows. But who are we and what makes us different? Well, here at Modern Widows Club, we serve women seeking to understand the widowhood experience, to assist them in creating a positive future and a purposeful life. Women of all ages and beliefs, faiths, partner statuses, and ethnic backgrounds. Women of all lost circumstances focused on growth versus grief and seeking empowerment. After tonight, you'll receive a copy of this 10-year impact report, which documents the data and the facts that I'll be presenting this evening. But right now, though, I want to focus on the future. We know the future of widowhood outreach lies in our ability to advance the Widows Health movement. We are a Widows Health organization first and foremost, and we have three big dreams for the future. First, I'd like to create the first ever Widows Health and Research Institute, because there is a correlation between grief and long-term illnesses for widows. Now, how would we get that institute? Well, I don't have that answer, but that's the vision that's been given to me. We also, number two, want to develop WESOT, which is the Widow Empowerment School of Thought, a house of widow transformation e-courses that will revolutionize how widows access resources and education, much like universities deliver their courses online. Number three, we also want to speak at every peace table around the world and ask for widows and their families' voices to be considered with the decision makers, since their life circumstances are most dramatically and negatively impacted when the world is not at peace. We must become their defenders to seek justice and plead the case of the widow in every way. This is just the right thing to do. One of our legendary Widow Award recipients, Margaret Owen, says there's no peace in the world until widows find peace, and I believe that. With 10 years of serving widows, we know that post-traumatic growth is key to healing and allowing women to continue to contribute and be an integral part of healthy communities and societies. You can choose to be a part of the solution right now, along with us. And I have an interesting question for you. Why do women widows who are 10% of the female population get less attention than sports and animals, when we are the ones that are taking those children to the sporting events and feeding all of those animals usually? Women, especially widowed women, are exhausted and scrambling for accessible and effective resources, supportive, inclusive communities, and hope. Modern Widows Club serves to empower widows to lean into life, build resilience, and make a positive difference in the world. We welcome them to walk the healthy widowhood pathway of hope, heal, grow, lead, moving forward and reaching back. But what is the issue? Most people do not know that the most stressful life event is losing a spouse. We will talk about that more in a minute, but also know that in the United States, 2,800 married women become widows every single day. And widows face a statistically greater risk of illness due to this stress, in addition to the secondary impacts of widowhood, which can impact finances, households, and children. There are not enough resources available to help widows navigate this life change, a life change that will affect 70% of married women in their lifetime. I'd like you to meet one of the many widows we serve and let her tell you herself how she feels about MWC. Welcome, Amanda.
Amanda, what do you love about MWC? For me, it is about knowing that I am not alone on this journey and having a safe place to ask questions and get advice about all of the different things that come with being a widow, a single mom. There's a lot to it. And knowing that you have other people that you can kind of look up to that have already gone through this just makes you not feel so alone. So for me, it's survival. It's a really positive thing.
You see, that short video shows you the myth and versus the reality of modern widowhood. She looked very young, right? She had a young child. At Modern Widows Club, it's more than just meeting for coffee, which we love doing that. That's awesome. We definitely want to meet in person. But we're an international movement for radical change. And that's because widowhood is more common than you think. As you see on this slide, again, 2,800 women become widows every day. The average age of a widow in this country is 59, and we are seeing many younger widows with COVID-19. Research on younger widows is sadly lacking. We are looking to change that and are currently the premier research population that's enabling these studies to be executed. Thousands of our ladies proudly complete those surveys, university case studies, and medical research projects when we provide them the opportunity. You see, the Holmes and Race Social Readjustment Stress Scale notes that losing a spouse is the #1 most stressful life event. It's 100 stress points. This sets widows up for a variety of secondary stressors and health impacts that continue way past the second year when grief services end, and dangerously near the 300 stress point level, positioning them for a potential future illness. This is why we care about health. What they need is life support, and we deliver it. But who are widows? Like we say,
Carolyn, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you've been muted somehow.
Can you hear me now? I can't hear you now, Lynn.
Sorry to interrupt you. You should be good now.
I don't know where I ended.
Just start over right here, Carolyn.
Where in challenge?
Who are widows?
What are the challenges widows face?
Slide number 9, one up.
Okay, so who are widows? 70% of married women will face widowhood. We've talked about this, but in MWC, 76% of them were under the age of 59. And 58% experienced sudden loss of their spouse. So what are the challenges that widows face? What you're looking at here is from widows face incredible array of challenges. For an example, 15% of our widows surveyed by MWC reported that they lost their health insurance. And of these, 20% had children at home. These are examples of the types of research we are conducting and some early results. This data will be included in your copy of the impact report, so don't try to look at the screen. There's a lot on this one page. But what's the health impact? This slide shows several key findings from data collected from 500 widows last June. An article is currently in process of being submitted to academic medical journals from this one survey. We have discovered that there are social factors that impact widows beyond just the death of their partner, specifically related to self-reported diagnosis of mental health. For example, the top variable states that if a widow loses her health insurance after the death of her partner, she is 2.5 times more likely to report being diagnosed with anxiety and 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with PTSD than widows that did not lose their health insurance. Another finding on this page showed that widows who identified the death of their spouse as anticipated are 70% less likely to report being diagnosed with PTSD than widows when their death was unexpected. So that means unexpected deaths need massively more research and attention. The price of neglecting widows is too high of a price to ignore. When we got these findings back, I broke down in tears. I'll just be honest with you, because that research is my story in a nutshell. I survived PTSD and anxiety and depression and brain fog in a time when there was no MWC. There was no research around, there was no social media, there was hardly really anything. Surviving for me was full of much suffering for 10 years. The suffering that we are preventing for today's widows so that they can move forward and become a powerful change agents in the world. And I am only one example. So what kind of action happens at MWC? Well, we address the needs of widows through mentoring, providing educational resources, and promoting awareness and advocacy for widows' issues. We host our popular Widow Empowerment event every year, slated for September 17th through the 19th in Houston. Put your hands up if you're from Houston. And we also offer leadership training for our community advocates who are 100% volunteers on the front lines when widows reach out for comfort and understanding. Our approach is to offer a network of support for our community of WISTers, our widow sisters, which, by the way, we have trademarked legally that term, WISTers. And we provide tools to turn grief into growth. Most services are offered at no charge and continue long after widows become ineligible for grief support services, which actually ends around year 2. So from decades of observing, mentoring, and listening to widows, it was clear that there are 7 areas they are focused on when rebuilding their thriving life after loss. That's the graphic you're looking at here. This is what the graphic shows, the pillars of healthy widowhood that we promote every day. This is our proprietary system of approaching widowhood from a holistic, healing perspective because it works. Widows have lost their person, and they are looking to find who they are now without them. They are searching to feel loved, to be known, to be understood, seen, worthy, and supported. Don't we all want to feel acknowledged for our strengths and dignity and beauty, but also perhaps even more so accepted for our failures and our imperfections? Widows are heartbroken. The life and the dreams that they had as a couple are no longer possible. And we can no longer address it one-dimensionally from a grief aspect minus the growth that is happening. We must face widowhood holistically in order to empower the whole person in this life stage. So who are the women we serve? Well, we serve women, like we said before, seeking the widowhood experience, women seeking to thrive, to move beyond just the grief. But let me show you how Modern Widows Club changed one woman's life. Let me introduce you to Debbie. I can't hear that.
I'm Debbie, and I lost my husband Jay in 2011 to a sudden heart attack. I was invited to Modern Widows Club by a complete stranger who is now one of my most precious friends. I had the honor of co-leading the Seattle chapter with her, and when I moved to Tucson, I was compelled to start a chapter there because I saw the difference that this organization makes in women's lives. Modern Widows Club saves women's lives.
Okay, so I'm going to check this time and make sure people can hear me. Yeah, okay, great. So here we are with the slide. From 7 widows in my living room, Modern Widows Club now has 38 communities in the United States, and we are in 5 other countries. We had 455 ladies attend our 2020 virtual widow empowerment event, and 89 widow leaders attend our 2020 virtual leadership conference. We went virtual and it did not stop us. So what does it take to run an organization this big? Well, we're going to get to that in just a moment, but it didn't happen overnight, but our growth has been astonishing. And so here, this slide is talking about our international outreach. With 5 international communities established since 2020, we are seeing an incredible demand for our services around the world. The global documented population of widows was 258 million in 2015. And we know that COVID has been an absolute widow maker. While the challenges for widows in the US are great, widows in other countries, especially the global South, often face greater risk from practices that further disinherit them and put their children at danger. Their life is at stake. This is why we must expand our services worldwide. Our partnership with Rona Foundation is one success story. In Kenya, we're training widows in their sewing program, providing skills and ability to earn income by selling masks and school uniforms. As MWC establishes communities across the world, we also seek to partner with other organizations like Rona and Global Fund for Widows to advance the causes of widows. We simply cannot leave any widow behind. We deliver both tangible and timely support. We are reaching out to widows in new ways. Our Healthy Widow, Healthy Woman podcast, our educational webinars, which have been proven very successful and valuable to deliver the content to the world's busiest women. We are always exploring new ways to serve, but COVID-19 turned many of our plans upside down. And with the lockdowns of the effect, in spring 2020, MWC quickly pivoted to offer virtual meetings at all of our communities. Not shown here, but we launched our Love for Widows Benevolent Fund, which has provided 90 microgrants totaling more than $78,000. Monies from $100 to $1,000 that was given to widows who were facing a multitude of hardships, including food scarcity and medical emergencies. That was just hard to even say. This benevolent fund enables us to directly respond to widows in need with the immediacy and the dignity that they deserve and the compassion. Sometimes giving real money to resolve hardships is what's needed, and we can provide that now. I want to tell you a little story about one woman named Sarah who reached out to us right before Christmas on Facebook. Because of her partner's loss, they became homeless shortly afterwards. She was living out of her car with her teen sons. And well, she'd already lost her income, but she was fortunate. She found a job. But it wasn't enough earnings to be able to secure some affordable housing. And after COVID, they just didn't have any more savings. She reached out to us and we were able to mobilize resources and partners we had in Portland. But most importantly, we paid her phone bill so it wouldn't be cut off so we could communicate with her. This was a real threat and we knew what to do because unfortunately, this situation isn't rare. The cascading losses after the primary loss is when widows reach out to us the most. It's not in the beginning, when life has become impossible after all of their efforts to survive. But COVID did not slow us down. If anything, it demanded that we reach deeper to help even more. These numbers have been updated since the publication of our impact report in November 2020, but during 2020, widows received 10,330 times our services. This doesn't include the number of widows who receive our services through our 24 hours a day, through our social media platforms, our YouTube videos, our podcasts, our blog posts, or all of the interactions through our active Facebook groups. During the first 3 months of 2021, even we were shocked by the increase in the demand for our services. We expect to see this demand continue to grow exponentially as COVID continues to ravage the world and the grief tsunami that is coming our way. So now that we know the issues and some of the solutions, and now here's some impact information. MWC has experienced phenomenal growth in just 10 years with 38 communities around the US, all ran by trained widow advocates, and the creation of our international communities in Israel, Kenya, India, Canada, and Mexico. I am so proud to tell you that this MWC team can move mountains. It's just so unbelievable for me to know like what has happened in 10 years. This team manages more than 50 Zoom meetings a month for widowed communities, 90 email accounts for communication, more than 50 private Facebook groups, and 7 social media accounts, and has trained nearly 100 widow leaders, all while delivering resources to widows daily, weekly, and monthly through the newsletters, social media, webinars, live and in-person events, advocating for widows, researching widows' needs by surveying them and analyzing the data, all while supporting international expansion. That's a mouthful. And in the midst of all this, we are always protecting those who work in our organization and those we serve in our community from the never-ending predators and the scams that none of us knew would happen when we started this outreach. And the predation only increases as we grow larger and more vocal. So with only 2 staff members, we have 8 part-time contractors and dozens of active pro bono volunteers. MWC punches above our weight. Our growth is strategic and we are planning for the future. This chart isn't inclusive of the number of pro bono volunteers we are providing in-kind services annually, like from law firms to catch a fire, skill-based professional projects to educational offerings and donated office space. At the back end, we have a strong 100% board participation with full financial investment. This organization was built by widows, for widows, and came to be because of their devoted donations and believing in the power of what we were creating together. It is their treasure, talent, and time that made us who we are today. When we rose, they rose, and that's how it will always be. So let's give a big hand for all those who started this organization and got us through these last 10 years. We've grown in every way because of word of mouth. The golden ticket of approval, we are changing lives, and our widows tell everyone about MWC. In fact, that's exactly what led to our first seed funder. This slide is the power of one. Because of the generosity of one seed donor, MWC was able to launch a new chapter in its history. We are excited to leverage that incredible opportunity into further growth. Our plans for the immediate future include necessary outreach like accessibility and translations of all of our resources. Our website is now available in 39 languages because there are 39 countries with more than 1 million widows. The establishment of we want to create an actual Spanish-speaking community because we know we have a need for that. And we're going to launch a Modern Widowers Club virtual community to start serving widowers. We also are inviting fatherless daughters and start educating the next generation to our widow empowerment event to be there with their moms. We're going to be developing our educational e-courses and taking our widow leadership development program online to train more leaders efficiently. We're going to keep growing our national and international expansion of communities, and who knows where we'll go. So how can you get involved? Well, here's our call to action. The top 5 things that you can do to support widows, and we'll post these links in the chat. So if you want to go look over there, you'll be able to click on those links in a few minutes. Number 1, sign our petition on change.org. It takes 2 minutes. We are closing in on 5,000 signatures, which is when the media often starts to pay attention. So your signature may put us over the top. So go over there and do that. So number 2, subscribe to receive our Inside Look newsletter. It comes out every Thursday. If you receive this email from me directly, you may not be on our list, but go and sign up at modernwidowsclub.org. Number 3, launch a community in your area. Become a widow advocate. We'll train you. You can send an email to support@modernwidowsclub.org for those details. And number 4, volunteer your talents and time. We are seeking tech-savvy individuals, legal professionals, medical experts, and anyone who's willing to learn some new things. We welcome lots of volunteers. And number 5, consider a financial gift to support our efforts. To stay where we are today is around $550,000 a year. This is almost $50,000 a month, $1,500 a day. We are actively pursuing foundation grants, corporate partnerships, events, products, media exposure, and other avenues for financial support. Like I mentioned earlier, we leverage pro bono offerings whenever possible from law firms, accounting, marketing consultants, catch a fire, and we have saved over $80,000 in professional services. That's about $300 a day contributed in kind, which is huge. We save everywhere we can without sacrificing our exceptional delivery of services to widows. But it needs to be said, donations support our work. Bottom line, they allow this movement to continue. If we had 365 people donate $1,500 each, we would meet our annual goal. But to grow, we're going to need this number to be higher, and we're going to need to establish an endowment. If what you've seen and heard today moves you, then we humbly invite you to make a personally significant gift in support of our efforts on behalf of widows. We know you can be proud in helping to change history from this moment forward for the widows of today and those that will come, generations that we will never see. That's how we empower widows to thrive, with your support living on in perpetuity. That's pretty exciting. I can tell you on my end, I personally have put about $70,000 towards Modern Widows Club. And you know why? Because I believe in this. I believe people donate towards things they believe in. And I hope you will too. We invite you to become what we're calling a widow champion. So a donation of $1,500 supports one day of services for over 50,000 widows. If we had 365 champions, we would be able to sustain our mission as we stand today for 1 year. Because of COVID being a widow-making machine, we know the future will be much higher than today. We have already experienced it from 2020 to the first quarter of 2021. In fact, we've actually served more in the first quarter this year than we took 9 months to serve last year. It's unbelievable. Our dream in creating a Revolutionizing Widowhood Endowment Fund is the future, something no other widows organization is doing. We can focus on the front lines of being present for the widows on a daily basis through our programs, while also advocating for their needs through advancement of policies that directly affect their lives. If this dream moves you, we hope you will reach out after today's presentation. The world needs more of what widows have to give, their compassion and strength and wisdom, and how they empower themselves, their families, and their communities. This is what you are investing in, a plan to start reaching 1% of the 300 million widows worldwide. Our goal in the next 10 years is to be serving 3 million widows. Widows who are facing unbearable grief, societal neglect, social exclusion, and in some countries, inhumane practices, and yet come back stronger than before. To create human flourishing under the most stressful circumstances is something both audacious and necessary. I believe when we know better, we do better. We can bring the light back into widow's eyes, and she can find full restoration and joy again. And this is something that we have specialized in over 10 years, and we know it's changing the world. We hope that you will support this work. You can make a financial donation on our website, modernwidowsclub.org, or you can text to give by typing MWC to this number, 407-602-6868. I want to thank everyone for being on this call, and God bless you for attending and caring.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. We have had some amazing questions and comments and dialogue going on tonight, and we are getting close to the end of our time that we promised everyone. But I do have one question for you that kind of bubbled up that I really would love to have everyone hear the answer to this. And it is, if there was one thing that you could do to support widows right now, what would it be?
That question's for me.
Yep, for you. I stumped you today.
Well, we shared the 5 things, but to be quite honest with you, we need treasure, talent, and time. It really comes down to that. We need connections. And like I said, we don't spend any money at all on advertising. We could, but we don't want to, because we know that word of mouth is golden. And so literally, if every person could share Modern Widows Club with 5 people, and if every person on this call got 5 people to make a donation, everyone's different, right? But here's what I know about MW. When people find out about MWC, they are literally like, no one has ever told me about a widows organization. They are excited to know about our organization and what they're doing, because literally no one, even foundations that we go to, they're like, we don't have any widows organizations. And it's true, because widows organizations usually fail in year 7. We're in year 10. That's a huge accomplishment, right? On its own. And so, yes, that's really becoming the widow champion, whatever that means to you.
Well, that's wonderful. And I know I want to be timely and respect everyone's time this evening. We appreciate that you joined us. We will be sending out copies of the impact report, and the recording of this presentation will be made available as well. We'll be also adding some of the answers to questions that were asked throughout the presentation in our newsletter, Inside Look, and that'll be on next Thursday's edition. So be sure to watch for that. And you can also reach out to us at support@modernwidowsclub.org if you have questions that you'd like answered before that or that we've missed. So we look forward to engaging with you and hearing from you and hearing about your time and treasure and talents that you can offer us. Thank you for your time, and have a wonderful evening.